Hi, my name is Gene Hammett. I am the host of Leaders in the Trenches. My question today is, what does it take to be a good leader? What are the qualities that you must know about being a good leader? Those qualities are the topic of today's conversation. But this is a very special episode. This episode is more than just one that ends in 2 zeros. Today we're celebrating 400 episodes on the cusp of almost 5 years of producing this podcast for you to be a better leader, more effective entrepreneur, and to really grow the business that really makes a difference in this world. And I really love what I do here at Leaders in the Trenches, but what I love best is hearing from you about what you are challenged with and how I'm helping you grow. So I hear all these messages all the time. And today, this strikes to the heart of a message that comes all the time. Is how do we be a more confident leader? How do we be more courageous? How do we create that confidence and courage in others? And so today we're going to talk about the qualities of being a good leader. I have a very special episode that I have planned here. It's not an interview, and it's not just me talking to the camera like this. I actually have reached out to some of my favorite guests to talk about this topic of good leadership. And we're going to talk about the things that they did along their journey, some of the mistakes, some of them, the things that they learned, and what they're doing now to stay on top of it, to keep evolving, and to being better leaders tomorrow. Let's go ahead and jump in. I'd love to introduce our experts today. The first is Neen James. Neen is just fantastic on stage and off stage, and she's written the book Attention Pays. She may be challenged by her height because she's short, but she's not challenged in her ability to lead leaders. We also have Chris Brogan. Chris is just hilarious, but he's also a speaker, a writer, co-author. One of the books he had recently is called The Impact Equation. It's about bringing more humanity into your work. It really is a good fit to have his insight on today's program. The next expert here is Josh Linkner. Josh is an expert and a speaker on innovation. He's won the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award twice, which is very impressive. But he's also the author of Hacking Innovation, which is about new frameworks for reinvention and innovation that you really want to pay attention to. We also have Tamsin Webster, which is fantastic from the stage, but also in how she interacts with people to help them develop their ideas and really get more clear about the communication of those ideas. She has a fantastic product out there called Find the Red Thread. I use this quite a bit as a speaker to help me shape my ideas. So I really encourage you to go find or Google Find the Red Thread so you can find Tamsin's work. And finally, me. I will be adding a little color in here and really filling in some of the gaps because I wanted to make sure that you really understand exactly what it takes to the qualities of being a good leader. So I write, I speak, I podcast, of course. I also really enjoy working with individual leaders, founders, and their executive teams to help them become the leaders that they want to be. I really work with companies that believe their employees are the most important aspect, and they want to develop those relationships so that the employees are able to take more ownership of their work, go beyond responsibility. I've interviewed over 300 plus fast growth executives to really understand what it takes for fast growth, and that's my focus. I share with you today these insights because I want you to know who our experts are. I want you to know who I am. And now I want to jump into the qualities of being a good leader. And we're going to dive in right now. The don't list. The first one, don't get wrapped up in the title. Being a leader is not about the title. Neen James shares her thoughts that stem from a mistake she made during stepping into leadership for the first time.
I thought I was important, and guess what? I wasn't. Sometimes I think as a first-time leader, you get so excited about becoming a leader that you get involved in the crazy town that is the title. And you know what? Title doesn't matter.
Leadership is more about people than anything else. It's not the work. It's not the title. It's the people. Number 2, don't be controlling. No one wants to be micromanaged, nor do they want to be controlled. Josh Linkner shares a mistake he made as a first-time leader.
One thing that I did was I tended to be too controlling. I was a micromanager. I didn't inject enough trust in my team. And later on, I learned the lesson that I opened things up. I was totally transparent, and it became a we, not a me telling them. I wasn't as parental. Instead, we became more familiar. And that was a big change, going away from control to more empowerment.
You want to empower your people to think for themselves and solve the challenges that arise. Number 3, don't let fear and doubt stop you. We have at some level fear and doubt about new strategies and new investments that we must make. Even though fears come up, don't let it stop you from evolving and growing. Early in my leadership, I had an idea to do something big and innovative. I talked about it. I thought about it. I never put it into action because I let my fear take over. That's the reason I wrote the book, The Trap of Success. I share this with you because it really is about overcoming your fears and really finding the courage to move forward. And so as a leader, I say to you, because from experience, you don't want to let fear stop you. Number 4, don't focus on being liked. Leadership is not about being likable. It's about earning their appreciation. Chris Brogan talks about an early mistake he made that relates to being liked.
As a first-time leader, one of the mistakes I made was I kept mistaking likability for being a good boss and being a good leader. And I kept thinking that if everyone liked me, then I was probably a good leader. Well, likability is great unless you're trying to help someone improve their skills and hone their systems. Likability is great until you have to provide feedback that will otherwise cause a huge problem with the rest of the organization. And likability is wonderful unless you actually want to have success for all of your team and not just your self emotions and your personal feelings. So one of my biggest mistakes, I think, early on as a leader was trying to get people to like me instead of trying to lead in a way that earned people's appreciation.
Kevin goes deeper into this with a distinction between being likable and likability.
To be likable, but not liked. So there's no reason to be a jerk. Like, you should act like a good person. You should be kind. You should act from a place of caring and even love for your team members. But you should not care whether you are actually liked in return. A problem I had, I think a lot of young leaders have, is that, we want to be the popular boss, the nice boss, the friend boss. I used to think, we're all just equals here, we're all in just different roles. And that will make people like you. But there's a couple problems with that. First of all, most people, they don't need another friend. They do need a leader. They need a leader who's going to coach them, mentor them, guide them. And sometimes that's a tough conversation. They also need a leader who's going to make hard decisions fairly quickly for the safety and the growth of the team. I used to lead by consensus. I wanted everybody to agree. And of course, that's hard enough when there's only a couple of you on the team. But then when there's 50 people and then 150 people in the company, it really slows everything down and is impossible. So I think, be likable, but don't really care if you are liked.
Being a leader is hard and takes direct conversations that must put the good of all the people and the growth of the organization ahead of the desire to be liked by the people. Number 5, don't treat everyone the same. Leaders often want to be fair and equal. However, we must understand that not everyone is the same. We must know those that need support and those that want autonomy. Here is Tamsin sharing about her looking back and giving her younger self leadership insight.
If I could go back and give myself, as a fresh, newly minted leader, one piece of advice, it would be to understand the difference between fair treatment and equal treatment of the people that work with you. And here's what I mean. Different people have different skill sets. They have different ways they need to be managed, different ways that they want and need to be led. And I think in the early days, I was so focused on making sure I was treating everybody the same way that, in fact, in certain cases, that meant it was incredibly unfair to certain people. There were people who didn't need as much day-to-day guidance that I was giving it to, and so it was frustrating to them and it held them back. And then there were people who, for instance, needed much more direct guidance. And I was like, you'll figure it out. So I think understanding that difference between fair and equal is something that I wish I had learned a lot faster. But once I did learn, made a huge difference to me as a leader.
To get the most out of everyone, you have to treat them differently. because they are different. Now, the to-do list. When we shift here, we want to look at who you must be moving forward. These qualities of good leaders are profound when you truly live them and own them as a way of operating in the world. Number 6, do be a lifelong learner. Leaders evolve, leaders grow. Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and nearly every other leader values learning. Let's look at how 3 of our leaders see the value of personal growth.
Finally, in terms of continuous growth as a leader, it's dramatically affected me. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm always learning, always growing. I have a saying that I want to put the Josh, myself of 6 months ago, out of business. I had a saying at my own company that someday a company would come along and put us out of business. It might as well be us. And I apply that same approach to personal development. So I would suggest anyone listening, or read, learn, sharpen your saw. The more that you can advance your own capabilities today, the more benefit you'll have going forward.
So personal growth is very important to me. I am a lifelong learner, and I think anybody who is not investing a lot of their resources into learning is going to be quickly left behind. I mean, industries are changing like crazy. The robots are coming for our jobs. Globalization, other humans around the world are coming for our job. I spend easily over 10% of my income and over 10% of my time learning from anything I can, whether it's online resources or books. I mean, I'm probably reading 1 to 2 books a week, blog posts, coaches, mentors, online learning programs, whatever it is. You want to learn as much as possible. You want to be a lifelong learner. You want to develop that growth mindset. Otherwise, you're going to be confused when you're laid off and can't get a new job, or when your company goes out of business, not your own company, even just the company you work for, and now you have to fight it out, to do something else. Things are moving fast. We all have to be lifelong learners.
There's that super cliche statement that readers are leaders, or leaders are readers, or whatnot. Totally true. I think that one disadvantage people have is that if they stay learning only within their industry, they're doomed. You can only see what's come behind. It's like looking in the rearview mirror. And as I tend to say to people about being competitive, no one's ever won a race looking sideways. Well, you definitely don't win races looking behind you either. Leadership and sort of keeping your growth going is looking beyond your vertical, looking beyond your industry, and saying, what am I going to learn if I pay attention to this over here? What can I bring back to my world that they haven't tried before? One of my favorite questions to ask as a leader is, why hasn't anyone? And I think that that's a powerful way to move yourself from where you are and the current stuck thinking you might have that's causing you a challenge to get forward, and where you need to go next.
Learning is important for new ideas and new strategies. You must take action from the learning. Don't just read something and listen to new things. Neen shares a simple way to get the most out of your life of learning.
I am a person who is committed to attending industry conferences, watching TED Talks, reading books, listening to podcasts. I am constantly absorbing information because that is part of the industry in which I'm a part of. But for me, I think what has really impacted me is the ability to understand that we need to filter through all of the information that we get exposed to and find the things that are most relevant and that can be impacting you and actioned right now. So if you watch a TED Talk, or you read an article, or you read a book, think about what is one thing you could apply right now, and then do that for the next 90 days. We need to pay attention as leaders, whether you are a first-time leader or you've been around for a long time. It is my belief that when you pay attention, attention pays.
Be a lifelong learner. Don't stop growing and evolving. You owe it to your team, and you owe it to yourself. Number 7. Do learn how to give feedback. Giving support to growth means you have to understand how to give feedback. Kevin shares a mistake he made early in his journey as a leader.
One mistake I made when I was a first-time leader was I used to withhold giving feedback. So my personality type, I'm very non-confrontational. And so back when I was young and dumb, I would think giving feedback would be viewed as an attack. I thought I was going to get people mad, or that they'd get upset with me or disagree. It'd become a conflict. And so I used to withhold it, and I didn't do it on purpose, but I would just think like, oh, I'll wait until there's a better time. I'll wait until the end of the project. I'll wait until the end of the month. I'll wait until our quarterly meeting. I'll wait 10 months until there's an annual performance review. What I realized is I wasn't withholding feedback to spare their feelings. I was doing it to spare my feelings. I didn't have the courage to have that kind of a conversation. And as I got older, of course, I figured out, it sounds corny, but feedback is a gift. People want feedback from their manager. They want feedback from their manager who's acting like a coach. They want to get better. I was just ignoring people. They probably thought I didn't care about them. They weren't getting any better. They certainly weren't developing. So that's a critical mistake. I mean, people want to receive that feedback. They want to know how they could be doing better.
Another leader shares a mistake she made.
One of the biggest mistakes I made as a first-time leader, and it pains me to admit this, but really before I understood the effect of supportive correction, let's call it that. There was a time where when someone did something that needed to be adjusted in some way, that they behaved in a certain way or said something a certain way, I corrected them in front of their colleagues for something that wasn't necessary to be corrected in front of the colleagues, in front of this person's colleagues. And I just remember seeing the look on that person's face and realizing that not only had I not landed really the point that I was trying, but then I had actually done damage with other people. And most of all, the person I was talking to. So I keep that lesson and have kept that lesson incredibly close to understand that there is a time and a place for correcting behavior or correcting what somebody's doing. But the most important thing you can do is continue to build that person up and to build from strengths. And one of the most important things to do that is to understand when something needs to be kept private. And that, I think, is I learned it painfully and early, but it's a mistake I'm glad I made so that I knew it and have never made it again since.
Do listen deeply. Listen beyond the words. Listen actively. Listen with empathy. Leaders can't just listen to respond. Listening makes people feel understood. Improving your listening will require you to unlearn habits that keep you from listening deeply.
And the advice I would give myself is the same as I give my audiences now around the globe, and that is pay attention. Pay attention to the way you show up, to the way you communicate. Pay attention to your personal brand. Pay attention to the conversations. Be such a fascinated listener that you are able to absorb all of the great information that is around you and the mentoring opportunities.
Do trust your gut. Numbers are certainly important to company growth. However, you must go beyond the numbers to your real instincts. Josh gives us a take on trusting yourself.
One would be to trust my spider sense. There were a couple of times where I was in a meeting with more experienced people, bankers and such, and I felt like something wasn't quite right, but I deferred to them because they were the experts. But in turn, when my spider senses were tingling, I should have listened, because those are the times when your gut, your instinct is telling you to do something. It's probably worth listening and paying a closer attention.
We don't always have all the information to make a careful decision, so learn to trust the instincts in your gut. Do challenge people to grow. Humans want to grow, and yet many avoid change. As a leader, you want to challenge them to grow in skills, confidence, and courage. Tamsin shares with us how she sees growth when you are a leader.
But I think the thing that has grown as I've grown is this understanding that people will always meet the bar that you set for them. And so, because what I have done over the years is try continually to figure out how can I improve, what's the bar that I can set for myself. And what I've seen is that if I set the bar low, that's where I go. And if I set the bar high, then I'm driven to meet or exceed it. And so as I've really seen my approach to leadership change, it really is about figuring out what I see for those people that I work with, or even for the companies that I work with and set that bar as high as I think that they can realistically go. And then just delight in seeing people meet and exceed it.
Setting the bar high for yourself will inspire others to reach for what they want. Many people will do the work that is assigned to them. They will take responsibility for their work. Good leaders are willing to inspire people to feel like they are the owners in their roles, and then they're able to take ownership for their work. Ownership is yes or no. It is black or white. Chris talks about the challenge of being a good leader.
If I want to be the best kind of leader, then I'm going to really have to hold two really disparate thoughts in my head at the same time. One is that everyone's opinion and ideas are really worth weighing and considering. But two, the active leadership is really being clear enough in your description and your explanation of what needs to get done that people really can move forward with as less direction as necessary if they really feel like they understand the premise and understand the challenge and understand where they're heading with everything. Leadership is so much better done if people can really move towards a certain goal and really understand it and own it on themselves. And the more that they can own their own interpretation of it, the better way. So it's great to hear people's thoughts and opinions. I think it's ultimate when people really understand clearly what you need, and so much so that they can articulate it clearly back and that they can run with that and really take great ownership of it.
These are the 10 qualities of being a good leader. I share them with you because I want you to understand what does it take to really connect with people, to engage with them, to make them feel cared for, and for you to have the confidence and courage to be the leader that you want to be most. I work a lot with leadership teams on these very subjects, and I'd love to help you if you have any questions. Make sure you reach out to Gene@genehammett.com. This has been a fantastic episode about the qualities of being a good leader. I think it's really important to really keep pushing on that. Remember the one about being a lifelong learner? It really is important to really keep learning about leadership and about yourself. Hopefully this has been helpful today. I've enjoyed putting together this special episode. It is episode number 400. I would love for you to not only share this with someone that you would appreciate it, but also give us a rating review on iTunes or whatever platform you listen to. I'd love to know what you think of these episodes. Today was a lot of fun to share with you all of these experts and to organize this into something very usable for you as a leader. So take the qualities of being a good leader and use them. Now is the time. As always, lead with courage, and I'll see you next time.